Hello everyone and welcome back to another Talking Hub podcast episode. Today we've got not just one but three special guests with us. Raneem Naguib is our student counsellor and licensed psychologist here at CUD, as well as Amdalat and Chris, psychology students at CUD. All here to have an open conversation about stress, learning to cope with it, and finding healthy ways to deal with these situations. We hope you enjoy the episode. Hello guys. Hi
Yo.
Hi. How's everyone doing today?
Great, wonderful.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we will be talking about Stress Awareness Month. So my first question for everyone is, why is it important to spread awareness about stress?
So stress impacts all of us, and high amounts of stress inhibit us from living our best lives, and they can also make our current health issues even worse. We raise awareness because a lot of times we tend to ignore it, thinking it goes away on its own. So it's important for us to know its impacts, when it's happening, and how to cope.
So I feel as a student, being stressed hinders me from a lot of my school work. Then I would like it to hinder me, especially with stress at home. I get stressed at home and I get stress at school. And a lot of teachers don't understand because they keep putting pressure on me, and then my parents keep pushing pressure on me. So spreading stress awareness, especially to students, is quite important. We know how to handle situations.
Yeah, 100%. And I also feel nowadays, especially with the whole global situation, let's say with COVID going on, I feel for everybody it's good to encourage not really fighting your stress. I feel just meddling with it and trying to lower it across time. So I feel letting people know that, if you're stressed, you can do this and this and this is good. I feel it's a good thing.
I have a quick question for you guys. Mm-hmm. What are you guys stressed about? What are common stressors that you guys are facing as university students?
Mostly, I think it's pressure from parents. Because you have to get good grades, you have to do good at school, stuff like that. And I wanna get good grades, but I also wanna have fun. So I want a balance. It's very hard for me to have fun and think about having fun even without thinking that my dad might get mad at me for
might
not
intervene or something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I feel I don't know. I feel students struggle with this balance. Mm-hmm. Honestly speaking, they have the tendency to I need to work hard for my grades for my parents, and I need to have a social life at the same time. And I feel social life also is a stressor on its own.
Yeah,
because if you're in a bad environment, bad friends, social circles, it's an underlying stress that you just got to go through day to day if you don't have any other friends.
Yeah,
it's
I think there's also this element of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh my God.
I feel you have to always keep up with every event.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's almost you're putting all your work into studying and impressing your parents, but at the same time, or impressing yourself, but at the same time, you're oh my God, what am I missing out on? It's just trying to find that balance there.
And
it's
COVID,
really
yeah.
difficult. Yeah, and
COVID played a big, I think that year and a half that everybody was online, that's when FOMO was at its peak towards the very end, and then we 100%. Transitioned to seeing people now, and we're seeing other humans. It's oh no, I need to make the most, because who knows when next lockdown is and all that.
Oh my God, can I just add stress on social media, because you brought up COVID and a lot of the political mess, which is good, spread awareness online, but it's kind of stressful saying awareness, and there's no that one funny video you just need. So it's very stressful to even have fun on social media, which is a lot of people's breakthrough, so that is very stressful on its own.
I think as well during COVID on social media there was so much pressure around productivity.
Creativity.
Everyone was you've got 24 hours completely to yourself in a day. We're not going out, we're not socializing, so what's our excuse? Exactly. And that was pressure in itself.
Depression was the highest in that time anyway, mental health was in the bin.
And then seeing a lot of people your age mates doing better than you, making so much money. It's oh my God, I want to go there.
Yeah, going viral, starting businesses, doing the most. And for those who, a lot of people, I think the majority of people struggled with their mental health and being at home, especially with people you're not used to being around 24/7. I think that it's all stress in itself. So that was definitely a pressure, feeling you had to keep up with what everyone else was doing.
Definitely.
Especially if the household isn't the best.
Exactly. You never know what type of environment someone's in, and some people were forced to be environments they weren't comfortable with during that time. So
I think that definitely peaked when people were were in quarantine with other people and they're not getting along, and then they're around you all the time. And I also think that the stress from COVID within the past 2 years also, we're dealing with it now. The aftermath,
Like
the
the
fallout.
after effects, yeah.
Yeah, the after effects,
Yeah.
they're still there. Like within that 2 years, people have lost loved ones.
Yeah, oh my God.
They've lost jobs. A lot of their friends or people they were
Economy.
close to, they moved back. They're facing financial stress. So there was a lot of grieving, and we're still working with that now. But at the same time, we're trying to keep it together
Yeah.
and keep going. And we don't have we're not giving ourselves the space or the time to sit and deal with it. And like you said, there were Amas had said, like, we're so pressured to kind of keep up with what everybody's doing. Yeah.
productivity.
And this
That's the
person,
best way to put it, I think. Toxic productivity.
yeah. And
definitely.
you have that pressure to do well. And, you're competing with something you see on social media that isn't
Not even
necessarily,
real, almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
It's
even
pseudo, it's
real.
pseudo.
It never is.
It's
Yeah,
Honestly,
it never is.
It never is. Like, even as real as it can get, it's always
Yeah.
tweaked. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's often like a lose-lose situation, I think.
Yeah.
But other than the pandemic and the effects it had on us, what do you think the most common roots of stress?
Like keeping up, balancing your responsibilities, managing difficult situations, family, friendships, university expectations, pressure. And then this one, I want you to imagine me saying it in capital letters, change. I think change is a big cause of stress.
Yeah.
And because we like being in our comfort zone and not taking risks just because we don't know what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, especially if you have something stable and then you try to change it,
Yeah.
like you're disrupting its like peacefulness or whatever. So
Yes.
it's obviously causing stress.
They balance. Can I also add culture? Culture is like the biggest like roots of stress. Like, and culture, like different culture, like the culture, like the norm between women and men and all of that adds to so much stress. Like growing up as like a Muslim black woman, I had so much like rules and regulations, do this, do that, do this, like, and it actually is, no matter how much I try to like pull away from those rules, it still affects me like unconsciously, and I'm still stressed unconsciously, and I find out like that is the reason why I'm stressed. Like even though like my dad is like, oh, no, like we're like in 21st century, it's different. No, it's not different. You still think that way, you know. So that is like one of the major reasons why I think I'm so stressed. Like it all adds up.
We need another podcast
Yeah,
just on
Yeah,
that.
for
I
that.
have
Oh my God.
so much to add
sure.
to that.
Definitely for that.
Maz, can we have a part 2, please? It's definitely relatable, and it's something many people are currently trying to balance.
Yeah.
A lot of us are third culture kids, or our parents have their culture, but then we're in a different culture because we're from a different generation.
Yeah.
And then between me and my sister, we're also from 2 different generations, and we differ in that way. And that does cause a lot of stress, and it causes a lot of friction. And then you need to find a balance. You have to,
Find yourself within that.
find yourself, take what you can from whatever's around you and form your own world. Take the best from all the worlds you're a part of. And honestly, sometimes you will find yourself in a place where you're embracing all these impacts and cultures you're balancing.
And then it's stress about not knowing what actual culture you're from, because you have like different like
Identity
from like
crisis.
your
Yes.
parents'
Exactly.
generation, your generation, the next generation.
Yes.
It's like different cultures.
That's so true. I think there's always like an internal battle there.
Yeah.
Like, especially for example, with me growing up in the UK, I'm fully Arab, but growing up in the UK from such a young age, you go to like a predominantly white school, you're the only Muslim, you're the only Arab, and then you're like having to adapt to that culture, but also like you said, there's a pressure from, let's say, families to stick to our roots, and just trying to find that balance can be so difficult, and it really affects the way that you grow up, and it shapes your
I relate to you
adulthood
so much because
yeah.
I had to move here when I was 10, like from like
Where were you
Nigeria.
before? Oh,
Nigeria. Like it was like, again, all black people, all the same culture, all the same like thinking. And then I came here, the only black person in my class, the only black girl in my class. So it was like so like hard to like adapt to, because like, no one was like me, and now I have to be like them. But how do I be like them? Because like without like feeling like insecure, like inferior to them, which I felt a lot. So that was like very, very hard, and that was stress on its own, because like still something I still deal with. even though I'm more like I understand the culture more, but it's like I don't understand it entirely, and they would never understand me because again I'll probably be the only Black girl they meet or the only like Nigerian person they meet, So
Have you met anybody else with a similar experience that may not be Nigerian?
Yeah, like her.
Oh, awesome!
She just said she was cheap.
Nice.
Yeah.
Personally, and I think a lot of people in our situation tend to get along with.
Yeah.
There's like this like a cool dynamic that works with like foreigners who like the cultural differences and all that.
You put all foreigners in a room together, they never stop
Exactly.
talking.
They never stop talking. I could go on and on about this topic because it is really difficult, and especially as a child, like your childhood shapes so much of the way that you act as an adult, and I think the way that you perceive yourself in situations like definitely it's this internal battle.
That's my favorite thing about Dubai, because I feel like there's so many expats, people with the third culture kid experience, and then we all relate. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. The diversity
where you fit in, but you don't fit in, but you fit in because you don't fit in with other people.
Because you're never the only one of your.
I get what you mean.
Like you don't stand out here. There's there's so much diversity, and there's so many people that are like you, and it's incredible.
You fit in because everyone has the same experiences as you.
Exactly, or at least like, somewhat similar. That you wouldn't find elsewhere, for example. So moving on, do you guys think people were less stressed, for example, 10 or 20 years ago in comparison to how we are now in terms of stress?
10 years, that was quite recent. 10, 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if we're moving like maybe like in the 90s, I think people were more stressed.
Do you think so?
Or like
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say that with time we keep getting more.
I see where you're going with that because of like
stressed.
Oh yeah, because expectations.
Yeah, expectations, pressure. It seems like there all these like world events and because stress, like historically, it started out as it's a threat. Yeah. There's a threat to your immediate safety. Like there's a bear, so your body is gonna get stressed so that you know what to do. And now we're stressed because there's pressure, social media.
Some nonsense,
we're stuck in traffic.
I think they were more stressed back then because they couldn't talk about their stress. We had the chance to talk about our stress.
Definitely.
So I think they were definitely more stressed back then. Do you ever see your parents talk about their stress? Like never. So like it's like a lot of built-in stress. But us, like even though we're stressed, we rant about it on Twitter. Like guys, like today, I don't know, my mom yelled at me. Like that is like us talking about our stress in a way.
It's normalized.
Yeah, it's normalized.
And there are more outlets for us to speak about. Easy methods. I feel like the topic of mental health in general is so much easier to talk about. But when you do speak to like the older generation, I feel like with our parents or just family in general, they always say, you should have seen what we went through. We were your age. I do agree with what you said in the sense that I think they had a lot going on. It was just never talked about. It's all suppressed.
Or what if they didn't call it stress? What if they didn't even know what stress?
They call it. My dad calls it challenges.
Oh, that's good. That's a good way to reframe it, and that does help with stress. So he's using a very good coping skill by calling it a challenge.
The generation that we're in now, it's not that just nothing is enough. We always want more. Like you could be so happy with your degree, for example, now, and you're like, oh, this isn't good enough, I need a master's degree. No, I need this internship. Or in working life as well, it's like, okay, I have this job, but I could be in a better job.
Once again, it's toxic productivity, and like grind culture and all that nonsense.
Oh my God. We're exposed to so much, so it's easy to know like what everybody else is doing. We can easily Google something. We know too much. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
I believe in that for real.
Also, it's like a lot of pressure and everyone has to be successful. Like, I want to be successful, but like everyone is successful. Then like you want to push harder and harder and harder. It's just like stressful because they keep finding new ways to be successful every day. So that's already.
Do you think there's somehow benefits to stress? Because you spoke about stress pushing you to do better and motivating you. For example, for me personally, I feel like I perform or work better under stress. I feel like it's almost like a nice feeling because I feel useful. I feel like, oh my God, there's so much going on. I need to do this. Whereas in comparison to when I have nothing going
Yeah.
on and my brain is just like in overdrive and
I would say it has like benefits, but it's not exactly healthy because if you're like doing a lot of like activities under stress all the time, it adds to like not good chemical imbalances that would probably affect you later on. And like I guess a lot of that also causes like dementia and like there's this like thing, I forgot the name, but like when it affects your eyes or something like that, I'm not sure. But like basically in the long run it's not good.
It affects your body.
Yeah.
In the long run it's not good.
There is good stress because you knowing you need to do something. So that's good. It's gonna motivate you. It's gonna kind of like light a fire behind you and say, hey, you need to get this done.
Yeah.
But then you're right, but if we're feeling the stress more times than not, or daily or weekly, then it's not that good because that's going to like lead to like long-term impacts. And if you're constantly stressed, that means your heart rate's constantly high and you're breathing too fast and you're like getting sweaty and shaking and your blood pressure. So yes, too much stress is bad, but we also need just the right amount of good to push us to get things done and like reach our deadlines.
So, like, I feel like you can be in a non-stressful state and still get a lot done.
Exactly.
Like I try to, because it's great to have like these little stressful acute periods, but then after that you need to like rewind for like a week or like 2 weeks.
Because you could get burnt out.
You'll get burnt out. Mental energies.
I feel as if the reason why we think we need stress is because we've always had stress. Like our entire life, so we don't know what it feels like to not be stressed. So I feel as if I just want to know what it feels like to not be stressed. Maybe I'll do better without like that mental
fog or whatever. Yeah, I get that.
So when was the last time you weren't stressed? So
probably when I was a baby.
So in terms of your academic performance, do you feel like stress does affect your academic performance? And if so, how do you feel that you cope with that?
I don't let it affect my academic performance.
You don't?
I cannot afford to let it affect my academic performance because that's like a whole other stress on its own. Like
it's good. You're like,
so,
not today.
Not today.
I got other stuff to stress about. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. So I try not to let, like I try my hardest, like at least like in a B at most. So I try not to let it affect me.
So if you have a question, so because I think this might be beneficial for people to hear. So you're kind of able to not let your stress get in the way of you studying and getting good grades. But can you kind of go into detail on how you're able to like sit down, study, and get your things done, even though you're going through stressful situations at home?
Yeah. So you have to kind of know the kind of like how you study. How everyone studies is different. Some people like writing notes and all of that. I do not study like that. I do not get things done. What I make sure I do is that I'm the kind of person that like if I'm in class and there's a lot of interactions, it sticks in my brains like forever. So that's how I study. Like I go back when I'm like studying, I go back and like read like the PowerPoints.
Watch the video again.
I like watch the video again. I was like, oh, I remember that conversation I was having at this time, and then like it sticks in my brain. That is how I study. But like also one thing is like knowing that, okay, yeah, my dad wants me to do good, but like I also want me to do good. So that is also like, you know what, I'm not doing it for my dad. I'm doing it for myself.
Like
you know?
a clear
That's
vision,
great,
and that's helping you
Yeah.
push through.
Yeah.
How about you, Christian?
I feel like for me, first of all, it takes a long time for me to like sit and focus for like a long period of time. But one thing I used to do is I used to study in like 30-minute blocks. So like I put a timer for 30 minutes and I take like a 10-minute break or something like that. Because or else it's either I work for like 6 hours, no breaks, no nothing, or it's like I don't work at all. So like I had to find the balance between both. And for me, I always thought like if your academic life is stress-free, like your personal life would be fine. So meaning is, let's say like you have a breakup or like you have a family loss or like you got into something terrible. If you're like failing in all the courses and all that's going on, that's adding a more stressful thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So like deal with your academics, like make sure that's cool. And then if you're suffering from all that, then you can be like, okay, I'm acing my math class. Now I can focus on grieving on this and this and this.
Because that's very detrimental. I think
Very.
with university education in general and work, it takes up such a huge chunk of your life. You know, we're in work for how many hours of the day? We spend so much more time with our colleagues or like like fellow students for so long of the day that if that one main part of your day is filled with stress and you're not able to manage it, then everything else is going to be amplified.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, if you're going through something at home, that's going to be 10 times more amplified. You're going to think, oh my God, I have so many things
or like
going
I'm
on.
failing
Yeah.
like
Everything.
I have a 1.9.
I can't do
I'm on
anything. Yeah,
probation,
exactly.
And like, and something just happened.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not the best.
Yeah.
Also, like doing good in like academic
like a
validation, like
You
yes,
do.
I did that.
Yeah, you do.
Now you want to do better, and now like it kind of like releases the stress in a way. Like one more thing, like I don't have to worry about that one. So like,
Yeah, because
good.
when you see the results in front of you and you see you're
Yeah.
performing well, it's going to push you to do better. But when when you see a grade that you don't want to get
Yeah.
necessarily, you do feel let down by yourself. You feel demotivated. You feel,
Yeah.
oh, am I going to be able to? What's the point? Am I going to be able to do better?
I wanted to jump in and say, you guys, I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but you guys are doing a great job managing your stress.
oh, thank you.
we do our best.
You really are. Do you
No, I
feel
do my
that
best.
way?
I do my best. That's all I can say. Some days are low,
You guys are doing
and some days are
good.
all right. Some days are average. Low at days.
Yeah,
high days.
you
I think
guys are being active about it, also taking preventative measures.
Yeah.
That's
thing is,
that's
like I've been
great.
in situations where I've failed everything and like
Oh my
know
God.
everything. So we've
Tell
been
me
there
about it.
for long periods of time, and like it wasn't good. So like, gotta bite the bullet.
That's
now,
a-
you know?
Nice. So I have an interesting question. There are parts of the world where stress is higher than others.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Unfortunately, in countries where they don't have enough privilege, in countries where they're like suffering right now, not to speak politically, but like those countries, like they're actually going through a lot of stress because like there are a lot of kids in the streets that have to like take care of their parents. You don't need, like, kids don't need to be doing that. Third world countries, they go through so much stress, and like it's so like crazy because like how much like the amount of privilege you're sitting on to like actually like go into details. Like even I don't even have to go that far. I just have to look back at Nigeria, like the amount of like kids on the streets.
I agree. It makes sense.
I wanted to share something. I actually came across it a couple days ago when I was looking to Mental Health Week. But I read something that was really interesting, and I want to see if you guys agree with it. But I had mentioned that Western countries are more stressed than developing countries. And that's due to them having a higher sense of community. So that maybe with stress comes a protective barrier if you have like a support system. Because I was like thinking of it the way you guys are thinking of it. It's like, yeah, there are countries that have like an economical crisis or there's war or there's famine. And then I read that. I was like, wait a minute. You know, it's a little bit like that's
iffy.
not what I
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, maybe we're all going through stress, but if we, have a support system or a community or somebody that helps us out, that kind of, that helps a lot.
Yeah,
No,
it does.
I talked the other day to some people how important it is to have good like periphery people. Like you have good people around you and they support you through like tough times. Although going back to that grind mindset, toxic, whatever, they also promote this like, yeah, you got to be alone and go through it alone and all that.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to go through it some point in your life, but like if you have the privilege to have good people around you to like, help you get through it, then why not take the opportunity and then go through it alone later?
No, there is this the new trend that you see everywhere of like, I don't need anyone. I just need to cut everyone off, do this by
Yeah.
myself.
And those people haven't been there anyway.
cut
like,
these distractions off out of my life. But I actually can disagree with that more. I think you do need to be focused, but people are so important in life, whether it's one person or two people or 10, as long as you have a good support system. I agree with what you're saying, because I did read that somewhere you have a good support system or something like that, and people in the West were struggling to even think of two people. Two friends or colleagues or family members or anything that they had support from. So that does affect it a lot.
There's just this quick analogy that says like if you throw a person in a cabin in the woods and they're all into that like spirituality and all that, but then you have somebody who has a very good support system in society and like they promote all this like, yeah, you gotta go adventure on your own, like backpacking and all that. Like some people are meant to do that and they're built to handle that, but some people get lost alone and they're like, I'm really stressed out, I'm alone, all that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like kind of both ways.
We think that we have a lot of people, but like culturally, like people not from the West, like we grew up from big families, but we're still kind of alone.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, isn't that adding to the stress? Because like we do have a
Yes.
support system, But
Like supposedly,
yeah, so exactly.
like allegedly.
Allegedly,
Yeah.
we do have a support system, but like we're actually truly alone.
But who's
Yeah.
actually going to support you out of that
Yeah.
support system? Yeah.
So
I mean, you got to work on some stuff on your own, but also not isolate yourself and keep it all inside. You need an outlet to
Yeah.
somehow let it out of you, whether it's through like talking or exercising.
I feel like the
or-
verbal outlet is like, I've done many outlets, and the best one is like either exercise or talking. Like you can't
Like
really
talking about
Yeah,
nonsense,
like
like-
verbalizing your own. If you're alone all day at home, your mouth hasn't moved for like 12 hours,
Mhm.
like logically. So you want somebody to just like speak to.
yeah, this might make
Yeah.
me look crazy, but like, you know, when you're just talking to yourself,
Yeah.
you're just not about anything, but you're just like acting out something. That's like a great stress reliever.
Like, making scenarios.
Making
That's-
scenarios and just
I-
acting.
That is interesting. yeah.
Like just talking to yourself. Like you're your own best friend, you know?
Yes, I love that. I say that all the time.
Yeah, just talk to yourself.
Yes.
Do weird stuff. Make jokes, act, role
Yes.
play. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Do your own tutorial, makeup tutorial that no one is gonna watch.
That's actually, my friends would tell me that all the time when I'd go to them with problems, and they'd be like, if you feel like you don't want to confide in anyone, go out, go on a walk and just talk to yourself. She was telling
Yeah.
me like she'll put her headphones in and she'll like be walking through the street just like talking to herself like a crazy person. She's like, there's cars staring at me from the windows, like what is she doing? Actually talking to yourself as if you're your
Yeah.
own friend. Yeah.
Yes.
I've never tried it in public though, so
Yeah, that takes a brave
Yeah.
person.
Just if you want to put some AirPods in, so it looks like you're on the
Yeah,
phone.
you're on the phone. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
why did you do that? The whole time you're just talking to yourself.
But I do think talking about it is, in my personal opinion, the best outlet.
I think it's like rank 1. I think rank 2 maybe.
Nice. Yeah.
Exercise, I feel like is top 3, top 2 maybe.
Mhm.
Do you think, are there any specific people more likely to be stressed than others? Like specific personalities or?
Yeah, of course, you have the parents. You have people who struggle with their mental health.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you have like pre-existing mental health conditions or physical ones, you're more likely to get stressed if you're going through financial
Overwhelmed,
issues
yep.
or like job
Financial issues.
loss. I don't think it's like a specific demographic, but it depends on what you're going through. And if you already have pre-existing conditions that are just like adding up and adding up, and then I'm a woman, and then I'm black, and then I'm Muslim, and then I'm in another country.
It's like a domino effect, yeah. Sure.
So yeah, there's so many layers.
I don't know why I thought like when you said personality, like what popped up in my head is like outgoing people that are always the life of the party.
Extroverts, yeah.
Like I feel as if they're like so much like there's so like much stress on them because they always have to keep everyone happy, kind of, and then they never really talk about what's going on with them.
It's almost like imposter mode.
Yeah, exactly. I feel as if they
Yeah.
go through so
Like
much stress.
they go out with a mask
Mm-hmm.
to make everyone happy, and then that's why they say like comedians are the saddest people.
Yeah.
Once again, it's a bit also subjective. Like I feel like everything we've said is very applicable to a lot of things, but I feel like it's also a subjective experience. So there are some
Yeah.
comedians who are really happy.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Just to be like on the bit of a
I was like thinking of
Different
myself. I'm
tangent.
like, yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
because I use humor a lot. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I depressed?
yeah.
No.
No, I think that's what we all do though. We all use humor to
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
But-
mask up the pain.
yeah.
Maybe for comedians, it's maybe their reason for being so stressed is not necessarily because they're comedians,
Yeah.
but they have a lot of pressure to be funny.
You gotta be funny or else
Exactly.
you're
They
gone.
have to make everyone laugh.
Yeah, and you have one, like, you know, a one-hit movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're still stressed out because now, you know, where do you go from
You
there?
have to, like,
you
you
need
set the bar
another
too high,
one.
for example, or something.
Yeah,
It's also stressful for them because like who is gonna make them laugh?
I love that. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, it's like sometimes they want to laugh too, but like there's no one to make them laugh.
Yeah, they deserve to laugh as well.
Oh my god, that's actually so sad.
I didn't think of that, but that it was definitely something to consider.
Yeah. What are your top tips to decrease and manage your stress?
Friends, even though I said friends add to stress, but like for me, the biggest like stress reliever has been like my friends, and also talking to myself. But like
I love working out, just being with your thoughts a little bit, reflecting and doing all that good stuff. It's good. But exercise is like my number one for me personally.
Those are all great. I would always struggle answering this question because there's so much that goes into it, just depending on like what you're going through.
Yep.
But the main tip I would give is deal with it when it comes up and don't push it under the rug. Don't ignore it. Find out what the source is, because that's the only way you can move forward with it, because you can't run away from it for so long. It is
It'll
good
catch up to you eventually.
Yeah, it'll catch up to you, and it'll seep out of your pores. Like release endorphins, oxytocin. Like when you're with your friends, you're releasing oxytocin. When you're working out, you're
Your heart's
releasing
pumping, your blood's
endorphins.
going everywhere.
Yeah, and just taking part in like the good things in life. And if there's something that's out of your control, you can't stress about that. You can just say, hey. I'm going to try to accept this. I'm going to try to see how I can move forward with this, how I can make the best out of it, how I'm going to focus on. Just some things are out of our control, and we need to focus on what we can control. If we're stressed about finals, for example.
Yeah, you got to know how to manage it.
Yeah, like
you can't be stressed about something and not study for it. Like if you're stressed about it, like try to find the solution.
Yeah, that's your brain telling you, like, hey, you got to do something. Alarm, warning. So don't ignore yourself. Yeah. Don't ignore your own best friend.
Let's go.
I read somewhere the other day that if it's out of your control, then it deserves freedom.
Nice. That's a good way to put it.
I think that's a good way to put it. And to end this episode, thank you guys so much for being here. I loved this conversation.
Awesome.
This was actually so fun.
So
even though I was nervous.
This was so fun. We were all so nervous. We were all stressed for this podcast.
Exactly. We're all very stressed.
All pun intended.
I think we're all leaving on a high, definitely. And this has been a stress reliever for all of us.
It actually is.
For sure.
Yes.
Can
you invite us again? Are we invited again?
Guys, it's the Talking Hub podcast with 4 hosts now. So yes. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thanks guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you.